Hello, I'm Yves Tiberghien at the University of British Columbia here in Vancouver. I'm a professor in the Department of Political Science, also faculty associate here at the Institute for European Studies, also at the Institute for Global Studies. My work is in political economy, comparative political economy, and the linkages between domestic politics and globalization. I had a book out last year from Cornell on, called Entrepreneurial States, on corporate governance reforms in the context of financial globalization. With the recent crisis, I have specialized on the comparative analysis of domestic responses to the crisis, both looking at Europe, but also Japan and China, as well as North America. So let me say a few words on the crisis. The crisis has been astonishing. It has taken many analysts by surprise. The contagion, the intensity of the crisis, the crashes of the real estate markets and other markets have been astonishing, have gone to levels that we did not expect. The speed through which the crisis is propagating and the very little impact that responses from different governments, the US, European governments and others, has had on the crisis is also astonishing. What is clear now is that this is a crisis that's not just a banking crisis or a real estate crisis. It's a crisis of the governance of global finance. Governance of global finance has been difficult over decades. I would argue this is the Achilles heel of the global capitalist system, and we have relied so far on a system of US-centered hegemony. This is what has sustained us since the post-war period, since Bretton Woods in 1944. Now, the crisis is so elusive, it's so hard to answer in a complete way because we have entered a different period, a period of transition in power relationships. I would argue this is both a period when power is getting more multipolar, more diffused, with the rise of several powers, including the EU coming with a unique voice on the scene, but also China, Japan, Brazil, and others. The second trend is one of hegemonic transition. This is not a time anymore when the US has the raw power, the finances, or the soft power to call the shots and to show leadership, as it did in the Asian crisis, for example, in 1997, a mere 10 years ago. Now is a time when we see the writing is on the wall. In some ways, we see that China's economy will probably overpass the US economy within 20 years, at which point the two powers would be at equal level, but China will move on and may take hegemonic position in the global regime. Everyone is already anticipating this and is jockeying for position now already with China. In this context, what's quite fascinating is that we find a voice coming from Europe that has been very strong. We find that it's Europe that came up with the first comprehensive response to the crisis in October, with the insight coming from Gordon Brown and then followed on by Nicolas Sarkozy of France, that we had to deal with the crisis as a solvency crisis, and therefore that only injection of capital, public money into banks was going to help in the crisis. This has then been a major model for other rescues around the world, including in the US. We also find that Europe is taking the lead in trying to build a coalition with the Asian powers, including China. And we saw last weekend, the weekend 24th, 25th of October at ASEM, the Asia-Europe Summit with 45 countries in Beijing. We found Nicolas Sarkozy trying to bring this idea of the need for a new Bretton Woods, for major reform of global governance to the Asian partners. And we found China responding quite positively, saying that it will take an active role in the reform of global governance, and it will speak with a stronger voice at the first meeting on November 15. Behind all this, we find that Europe has been able to innovate in the policy front and innovate in the way it's governed, because of increasing competition among the actors in a positive way. We find a stronger axis between Britain and France, which has come quite unexpectedly, but we also find more trouble in the France-Germany relationship, and that may hamper the role that the EU will play at the G20 meeting coming soon. Bye-bye.